Every once in a while, as a teacher, you know that you have a lesson that's not for everybody or an activity that's not for everybody. But I really like to think, just like I'm thinking about this video, this is for somebody today. So we're gonna go deep, not too deep because it's a mini PD, but I really wanna this is something, man, I'm hoping somebody takes something away from this because this is something that has literally shifted my life in the last few years. And one of these ideas, maybe the last year and a half, I kind of got put onto this idea. That's the last thing I'm going to talk about today, but literally changed my life. So before I get into this, I want to thank everyone for being a part of this channel, for leaving comments. And as a matter of fact, I want to ask if you have an idea for a mini PD, something that takes I usually try and shoot for 10 minutes, goes about 20 minutes most of the time. But if you have an idea for a mini PD, please leave it in the comment section below, or you can just email us at realrapwithreynolds@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to make a list and try and execute some of these things, because none of the content we ever come out with is something we thought of. It's always things that have been asked for. So I just wanted to put that out there as a way to kind of maybe help someone in this later part of the year. So today I want to talk about this idea of teacher mindset. And there's a lot of ideas around mindset, but these are like 2 or 3 things that have changed my life in a very real way. Some of this stuff leans to the spiritual side, but you don't have to be a spiritual person to get down with what I'm talking about here, right? You can be very realistic, you can be even scientific, and I'm telling you this stuff will shift you. So the first thing that I'm thinking about here is I got my notes, trusty notepad, is thinking about what are you focusing on in your life, in your classroom, in your school. So it can be, I'm not even gonna say easy. It just happens, right? Like you're in the middle of a school year and things aren't going well. You have classes that feel like a nightmare. You have students that feel like a nightmare. You're working with people that feel like a nightmare. Your class, some of this stuff is real. But how do we survive these moments? I think is how do we change what we're looking at. For me, it doesn't make anything bad go away, right? It doesn't necessarily even solve the problem all the time, but I'm trying to live a high quality existence as an educator, right? I'm trying to literally teach my class off. And I can't do that if I'm just running in my head. All the things are running through my head that I hate about where I am. I hate about who I am. I hate about the people I work with. I hate about my students, right? There are those things. And so when we're thinking about this, it really takes this intentional mind shift. And so I think one of those things is, what are you focusing your attention on? And so Tony Robbins did this really great experiment I saw one time that I'm gonna have you give it a shot, right? So the first thing is, if you close your eyes for 5 seconds, and I want you to think of everything that's brown, or actually, let's take that back. This is interesting, no editing here. I want you to look around the room that you're in and identify everything that's brown. So for the next 5 seconds, what is brown? Is the chair brown, the table's brown, the rug's brown, the floor's brown, the clock's brown? What is brown in the room that you are in? Right now, close your eyes. Tell me something that was green in the room you were in. And so when we do this, it is very difficult because we weren't focusing on the green, we were focusing on the brown. And this can happen in our lives as well. That this idea that where your mind goes, your energy flows. So if I am constantly looking for the next thing that's aggravating me about a student, that's aggravating me about a team member, that's aggravating me about my spouse, right? That is the sort of stuff that I find. And so there's this idea that if you start looking for ways to make the day better, right? You can't always change who your leadership is. You can't always change who's in your class, but you can show up and look for ways to make the day better, to make someone else's day better. And we all know that in that idea of giving, in giving we receive, in picking up an extra cup of coffee when you go out, in getting an extra donut if you're at the donut spot. I went to Dunkin' Donuts every day for years. And so I'd pick up an extra donut and just give it away. That act felt good. Leaving a note in someone's mailbox in the office, leaving a note on someone's desk, picking up some flowers when I'm out, over the weekend, I go to the spot where I get all my fruits and vegetables from, and then they have flowers there also that are really inexpensive. I just buy a cheap thing of flowers, bring them to school, leave them on someone's desk, right? It's these small acts of kindness that actually end up benefiting me even more than other people, but I have to be constantly looking for those. So it is this idea of, in Matthew 7:7, it says, seek and ye shall find, right? So like what you're focusing on is what you're going to find. And so if you are not, like, so that's, we took it to the Bible real quick, but if we bring it back even to science, there's this idea of in your brain, there's a piece of your brain, a part of your brain called the reticular activating system, right? And so if we look right down, where are you at, buddy? Right here. Oh, gotta get the juice on. Let's go with the big one. All right, so this is your reticular activating system, which is right here in the brain. And so what this does is most of what you notice in the world comes from two places. It comes from your ears and it comes from your eyes. And your eyes and ears are constantly processing input. Now, if you paid attention to every single thing that your ears and eyes were processing, you would go a little bit crazy, right? This is like folks that suffer from mania actually have there's too much processing going on. So if you thought about your heart beating, if you thought about every sound of every dog, of every leaf, of every bird, of every car, of the dishwasher going on upstairs, which is literally happening above my head, which I'm not doing a good job of filtering out right now. But if you had to filter all of that stuff out at a given time, you would lose your mind. So what your reticular activating system does is it cuts out those things, right? Cuts out things so you're not processing all things at once. However, if we focus on something, right? So my publisher, Dave Burgess, gives this really great story in his book, Teach Like a Pirate, where he talks about this particular idea. And he says that when he bought a minivan, right? He went into the minivan world as an adult. Some of you, as parents out there, you know that you traded in the cool car for the minivan, and which are utterly practical and very useful, by the way. But when you get a minivan, and he had like a Honda white minivan of certain type and style and things of that nature, when he started driving it around, he realized that he never saw this minivan ever before. But when he started driving that car, he started seeing it everywhere. And so I had a friend one time, Kim told me that every time she sees a cardinal, she says a little prayer. And I was like, wow, it's like weird. Like, I feel like I never see a cardinal. Well, don't you know that as soon as I said that and I started looking for cardinals, because I was going to say a little prayer because, can't hurt. I started seeing cardinals far more often. That there's a truck, there is a Ram truck that I want. It is my dream car that my students think is so funny. And once I saw it, I was like, man, I've never seen this truck before. It is like the sexiest truck I've ever seen. Start seeing them everywhere, right? So this is what your reticular activating system is doing. But when we are looking for something, when we're looking for goodness, when we're looking for joy, when we're looking for things to be thankful for, it starts showing up more and more because that's how your brain works. Now, last thing I kind of want to get into here is this idea of gratitude, right? So this is a story, this is a lesson I learned that changed my life. And I'm hoping that has some of similar effect for you. So in I'm going biblical again, but not, this is just for the Bible people. This is just like a practical look at something real quick. So in the Garden of Eden, in the book of Genesis, for those of you that don't know, this is, for those that believe in the Bible, it is where Adam and Eve were, let's change the color here. Adam and Eve were living in the Garden of Good and Evil. The Garden of Eden. I need to slow down. In the Garden of Eden, they were told that they could eat from any tree. They could eat any plant. They could do, this was paradise on earth, except for one tree, right? There was this apple tree that they were not allowed to eat from. And so, in this story, Eve goes to all the way down here, goes here and is convinced that they need to eat from this apple tree, right? She's like, damn, I can't even believe this, bro. Like, what do you mean we're not even allowed to eat from this? Is paraphrasing. I'm not sure that she exactly said it like this. Like, but it was this feeling of, I can't believe we can't eat from this apple tree. Why can't we eat from this apple tree? This doesn't even make sense. Like, and then starts fixating on that, right? Has to come all the way back, gets Adam. It's like, bro, you gotta come check out this apple tree with me. So then they two go all the way back to the apple tree. They have a whole conversation about this, and then they end up eating from the apple tree. Now, here's the thing that blew my mind. When we are thinking of lack, right? I hope you can see this. Over abundance, right? And I hope I spelled that wrong, but I don't know. So when you're thinking of lack or abundance, when you look at your life as does your life lack, right? Does your home life lack? Does your love life lack? Does your school life lack? In what areas of your life is there lack, right? We will find lack. But when you think of the Garden of Eden, and God said, you may eat from anything you want, except for this one thing, right? That is abundance, right? Every single thing, but one thing is abundance. But what Eve saw was the lack in the garden, was that there was this one thing I couldn't have, even though all of this beauty and splendor and paradise is surrounding you. So what does this mean for us? The thing that really tripped me up was that Eve took a walk, right? Took this walk through abundance to find lack. Then walked back through abundance all the way back here to the person that she cared about the most and was the only other person in the world, but through abundance with this fixation on lack. Then took him and they walked all the way back through abundance to lack again. And it made me really realize, this is what my mentor told me. He said, how much of your life are you walking through abundance to get to lack, right? So if I think about this in really practical terms, it is the importance of having a gratefulness practice in the morning, right? So what does that look like for me? It looks like waking up, and as soon as I wake up in my comfortable bed with my dog right next to me, who I love more than any dog I've ever had in my life, I get this giant grin on my face. I make myself grin in the morning because I don't always feel like it, right? But I grin in the morning. I just think, I'm in this bed. I am safe. My children are safe. I go down my carpeted hallway, past my safe, sleeping, silent son. I pass my daughter's room. The cat hears me. She comes out. Love my cat. Walking down my carpeted, soft steps downstairs where I'm going to get coffee, where I love making coffee. It's the first thing I do every single morning. I make coffee for my wife and I. I write my wife a little love note and put it on the counter for her, set up her coffee cup, set up her spoon, right? These are all, I start my day with an act of love. Then I go back to my office and I go through my day, but right there, like the fact that I have a home, the fact that my kids are safe, my wife is safe, my dog is safe, my cat is happy, that I have coffee, right? Benjamin Franklin said, beer is proof that God loves us. I'd argue and say that coffee might be a part of that equation as well. And so you are walking through all of these incredible blessings, all of this abundance in your life. And the question becomes, am I doing that at school? Am I doing that in my classroom? For every kid that I see that's driving me nuts, for every other person that I work with that's driving me crazy, for that administrator that grates my nerves, and it feels like every time I see them, someone is dragging nails down the chalkboard of my soul, that how much abundance is around me. And for me, that goes back to, part of it is back when I taught in Africa for a little while, in an all-girls school, in a building with no windows, and there were no lights. The blackboard had no chalk, or I had these little nubs of chalk, but it was all bumpy anyway. Like it was like writing on a stucco house, which is like impossible anyway. I had 60 students in a classroom. Some of the seats had no seats in them. And the amount of joy that these girls would show up to school with every day was like unbelievable. It was unparalleled to any classroom I've ever been in, that I was in before or since. And so it's this crazy amount of abundance. And so I challenge you to kind of think about that. And so there are ways to do this. You know, I've used everything from a 5-minute journal, which I have no affiliation with, but you can pick them up on Amazon. And it just helps you to list a few things each day that you're grateful for. You could just write them down. You could just meditate on it. But when you meditate on it, the important thing for me is to feel it. Like, I can't just be happy my kids are in their rooms sleeping silently and peacefully. I have to feel it in my heart. That, like, this feeling of like, man, that really feels so good to know that, like, I'm able to create and provide a space that my children are safe. And even if it's just sitting in your classroom and you're having a hard day and feeling the air leaving your lungs, sometimes I'll just stand there with my hand on my heart to feel my heartbeat and to know that although everything else is feels like it's burning down, it really isn't, right? Like, at the end of the day, I'm not the kind of person that's going to let it burn down, right? And so just remember that for all the madness that's going on with you, and this isn't a blaming exercise, right? I just want you to think about all of the abundance that might be around you and let your reticular activating system focus on that and then walk through your day with that. So look, for what it's worth, I know this wasn't for everyone. I hope that it was for someone. I hope this blesses you in some capacity. And remember, if you need anything else from us, you can reach us either at teacherclassoff.com and you can grab the book, or you can go right to realrapwithreynolds.com and anything that you need. If you need a speaker for your school this summer or this spring, you can head over there. If you want the book, if you need other videos, anything you need, we want to be a support system for anything that you might need in your classroom and anything that's affecting your classroom on the outside of your classroom. So that's it, gang. We'll see you next week. Peace.